everything goes in slow motion, but my actions were real time. So I just started pounding on the door with my sledgehammer. I'm gonna get zippered right through this door. And then, you just wrap your brain around the fact that, you know what? I may not see my kids again. I
Let
may
me
not
pause
see
me
my
for a
wife
second.
again.
Hey, it's Lou Pimber, and welcome to Lou Pimber Speaks. Exciting day today. Exciting day today. Listen, as you know, I'm obviously the author of the book Breaking Badly, a post-traumatic success story. But today is not about me, but a very special guest, a gentleman I've admired from far away, watching his work, and then now I get to read his book. I just completed it. I'm looking forward to share his story. But let me bring him on board right here, Erick. If you can just tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and we'll get right to it. So, welcome, Mr. Erick Maldonado.
Thanks for having me on, Lou. Like I said, my name is Eric. I retired from the Pima County Sheriff's Department after 29 years of service. That's how we basically got to know one another through you working CNA and doing your thing. But in my career, I spent most of it like tied to special operations in one way or another. In total, I spent 24 years in special operations, 10 on SWAT, 12 in K9, and then 2 as a search and rescue supervisor. All those assignments, though, assisted patrol operations. So my career, it was great. I got to do, honestly, the coolest jobs that I think are available, other than being a UC in law enforcement. Doing the SWAT stuff. Did that for a while, and then the K9 was really my true passion, and that's where I finished my career as the K9 unit supervisor. I did 2 stints in K9, one as a deputy for 6 years, and then in the end, I was given the opportunity to come back as the K9 unit supervisor. Previous to that,
Got
I
it.
was a search and rescue supervisor. So, it was a hard decision, but, not many people get to work a dog once, let alone twice, and I had an opportunity to finish my
Yeah.
career there. So, and
So
I
let
was like,
me let me let me bring you back. Let me bring you back a little bit, okay? Let me bring you back a
yeah.
little bit. Who is Erick Maldonado, man? Where you from originally?
Huh, well, I'm born and raised in the Bronx, New York. I lived
Yeah.
there for 23 years, and it was just an odd thing that got me out to Tucson. My dad and my wife were divorced early in their lives. I was probably maybe 2 or 3 years old. My dad never hadn't remarried, and then one day we go to a wedding for a mutual friend, and that's where he meets his wife. She's from Tucson. They have a long distance relationship, and then I was kind of at a point in my life, very young. I could either leave New York and take the chance of coming out to Tucson, or I could stay in New York. And living in the Bronx, like, one of the things that people don't realize, like, the East Coast is very different. Now you might find that in some of, like, your like the deep rooted Mexican neighborhoods in Tucson, where you
Yeah.
don't leave the block, man.
Yeah.
You're in the Bronx, like, you have like a radius of like your area, and that's your home, that's your area. And I saw generations of people just never leave the block, and I just didn't want to wind up like that. So I decided, I'm gonna take a chance and move to Tucson, and it was a big decision because of the culture shock.
Yeah,
Going
big
from
time.
New York City to Tucson. I moved out to Tucson in 1993, and obviously Tucson's a lot bigger now, but man, it was slim pickings back then. Like, there wasn't really much to do. The culture shock, I had never even interacted with, like, even with the Mexican culture or the Native American culture. Like, that just didn't exist in
Yeah.
my area. I'm Puerto Rican, but it took me a while to get used to, and then, I pursued my lifelong dream, which was to be a cop in the sheriff's department to
So hang on.
Tucson.
Let me stop you there for a second. So you come
Yeah.
to Tucson. You're already older. You're like 22, 23 years old at
Yeah,
this
I'm
point, right?
23 when I moved to Tucson.
Yeah. So you're already grown. So it was a culture shock.
Yeah.
The Puerto Ricans have their culture in
Yeah,
at least, well, especially the New Yorkers, right? The New
that's right.
Yorkers.
What is the difference? Yeah.
A lot different. New Yorkers, Puerto Ricans. Then you go to Tucson. full of
Yeah.
Mexicans and Native Americans and
Right.
everyday white folks, right? So
Yep.
the food was different,
Yeah, it took me a while, man. Like, you just don't have your same stomping grounds.
right?
You don't have that common thread, and, obviously, over a period of time, I got the opportunity to learn about the Mexican, culture and, but it takes a while. Like, I
It does.
even the dialect, how you speak Spanish is different than the way we
Yeah.
speak English. So, like, all that took a while to get used to, but, I love me some Mexican food, man.
Oh yeah. So you came. You're 23 and culture shock. You're from New York. Obviously, I met you around. I think it was like right around that time. I think shortly thereafter. It was very apparent you weren't from the area. You know what I mean? You had a little bit of that New York attitude. You know what I mean? And so it just became part of your swag, your style. You know, your estilo, right? So tell me about your mom and dad. You got that? They got divorced, and what's their story, man?
Well, I think, my story is probably similar to a lot of people's story. I came from a dysfunctional home, and my parents were both drug addicts. They were both heroin addicts, as a matter of
Got it.
fact, and they were both young. They made some really poor choices, which is what led to their divorce. Uh, my parents continued using drugs for a very long time. I know they scaled back from the heroin stuff, but they still use recreational drugs, and that created tension, in our relationship. So I was raised by my grandparents. And although I was really appreciative that I was able to live in a, I guess, semi more stable environment, it still wasn't ideal.
Yeah. Yeah.
My grandfather was an alcoholic, and there were times when he was physically abusive towards my grandmother, and then my grandmother, you know, I love her, but she was a very mean-spirited person, and was never very very supportive, and just lashed out her life problems on me. But
Got it.
I think a lot of people experience that,
Yeah, yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah, yeah. And so and deep down inside, you had this goal to become a law enforcement officer.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
what sparked that? Like, what lit the fire for that?
You know, I think part of it was trying to take a different career path. Like, it's very easy if you are born and raised into a culture where there's drug activity, drug use, alcoholism, to fall into that cycle, and I don't wanna say I got lucky, but I made a conscious effort to stay away from that stuff. So I think that that probably drove me to, maybe wanting to do something that was more professional, something on the extreme, on the other spectrum, on the completely on the other side. But let's be honest, man, like, when I was growing up, there were cool, TV shows with cops and stuff like that.
What was your favorite? What was your favorite?
Well, but people probably don't even remember this. Do you remember Hill Street Blues?
Of course.
Yeah, man. Be careful out there, man. I used to love those shows and stuff like that,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
obviously the old cops shows, with the Bad Boys theme music and stuff like that. Like, hey, listen, it's a freaking cool job, man.
for sure, man, for sure. I'm sure your grandma was excited when you became a cop.
She was proud of me, but not very supportive.
Got it.
She came from an era where she was distrustful of law enforcement,
And
and
sometimes they
even
have good
until the
reasons.
end. Yeah, and even until the end, like,
Really?
she was not. Like, she was just not very supportive, of
Hmm,
the she was proud of me that I accomplished something that I wanted to accomplish, but she just wasn't supportive. So I never really had that, family support, you know, when I became a cop. So
got
as
it.
I progressed through my career, I really, my family became law enforcement.
Yeah. No, I get it, man. I totally get what you're saying. It's similar in my situation.
Yeah,
A lot of similarities there, man. So I totally so
yeah.
you're in the academy. What was the academy experience for you? Was it everything you had asked for and more or less? So what was that like for you?
So, so the academy is what I thought it would be. Back then there was a lot of screaming and yelling. It was, high stress academies. You didn't know when your day would be over. But I'll be honest with you, I was still young in my head, and I was immature. And I think I also struggled being from the East Coast, interacting with people, and you know I know it now, but, like, people from New York can be very, can come across very arrogant and pompous and just, just a little too much for most people, and I
Right.
think I really put a target on my back in the academy, and
Uh-huh.
rightfully so. Like,
Uh-huh.
I was an idiot in academy, I was the
Uh-huh.
prankster, I joked around. Maybe I didn't take things as seriously as I should have, although I did genuinely care. Like, I
Yeah.
wanted to do well, and I excelled in academics, and I excelled, like, with all the practical exercises and stuff like that, but there's no doubt, I had definitely put a target on my back when I started in the academy.
Hey, give me an example how you put a target on your back.
Well, I think it's the saying things in class that you think are funny that really no one else thinks it's funny. Maybe being somewhat disruptive, being off to the side, screwing off with a couple of the other guys, maybe not
Yeah.
paying as much attention as I should have. And back
Yeah.
then, man, like, it was no joke. Like, if you it's not the way it is now, and I'm not saying that the way it is now is horrible, but there's a big difference in policing in, 2026 than it was when I started an academy in
Mhm.
1995. Like,
Mhm.
it's changed. You can't run an academy the same way that you did back in 1995, and back then there was a lot of structure, and I don't know if I necessarily did well in that structure in the beginning. Later on in my career, the structure worked for me.
Got it. Got it. Look, you wrote a book, a great book, by the way,
Thank you, man.
I'm going to show it to you guys here. It's called "Necessary Evil: Echoes of the Badge," and you mentioned a lot of things in there. And one of them, you talk a little bit about your police academy experience. But then, if we fast forward a little bit, you also talk about you defined what poor police work is versus bad cops. Right? There's
Yeah.
poor police work, and then there's
Yeah.
bad cops. Sometimes there's good people, but they're good people, but they do poor police work. And then there's
Yeah.
just plain old bad cops, right? So
Yes.
you talk about that. Can you expand a little bit about that?
So, I have the luxury of teaching across the United States with the National Tactical Officers Association. And I see departments all the way from California, all the way out to Vermont and Maine. And I've taught in almost every state. And there's a consistent theme. Like, I genuinely don't know cops who are just like really truly mean spirited. Like, I'm not saying that they don't exist. However, like, the problem that occurs in law enforcement is typically bad policing. Cops who may have good intentions, but just honestly aren't good at their job. So when you see these videos that go viral, what you often see is just really bad decision making. Like, it doesn't make them a bad person. Like, no one goes to work, by the way, saying, you know what, I want to make YouTube, I want to go viral, I want to royally screw up today, I want to make the wrong decisions, I want to use inappropriate use of force. No one ever goes to work saying that, but they find themselves in just really tense situations and they make poor decisions. And that can be attributed to maybe they just weren't cut out for police work. A
Mhm.
lot of it will fall back on just really poor training and resources. But I don't know cops who just are just really at their core bad people, but I unfortunately have met a lot of cops who just weren't good at their jobs. But
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
just want to highlight, but that doesn't mean that they aren't good people because they are, but there's a big difference. You could
totally.
be
Yeah.
a very good person who just makes poor decisions in law enforcement.
Yeah, I totally get it. In a tense situation, people either rise or they fall to the level
Yep.
of their training.
Yeah.
And so I totally get it. And police work is not for the faint of heart. Police work is not only is it dangerous, but you're dealing with people problems. And if you have little experience in dealing with people problems, sometimes your emotions can get in the way. I totally get it. Totally get it. Come out of the academy, you go through the field training phase, and then you became a field training officer pretty quick then, right?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, at the time, you had to have 3 years on as a commissioned officer deputy to be able to be a certified field training officer through AZ Post. And but I had really excelled early on. Like, honestly, like, police work came very natural to me. And I know you can relate in this way. When you're surrounded in life around criminal activity and you become very street smart,
Mm-hmm.
it makes you really good on patrol because you understand the language, you understand criminal behavior. It's like you've been around it your entire life. So
Yeah.
I excelled, and I would cover for a lot of field training officers who were like out on vacation, calling sick and stuff like that. So I would get their recruits, and the field training coordinator took notice of it and like, you know what, we really want you to be an FTO, but you don't have 3 years. But we're gonna make an exception for you. We're gonna bring you in at 2 years,
Yeah.
like whether it broke the rules or not, like that's not, like that's not for me to say. But
Yeah.
I bumped up a year before I was even eligible. I became an FTO very early on in my career, and I immediately took on a problem child, and I continued taking on a problem child after that.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, there's a learning curve, right? Some people come with certain elements of that learning curve already sort of like lived. Like,
Yes.
you come in with some life experience, with some streetwise experience. That's definitely helpful.
Yeah.
But then there's people who come in with a lot of streetwise experience, but they're lacking in people skills, right?
Yeah.
Coming in with a lot of incredible people skills, but they're lacking in streetwise experience. And these little criminals or these little people who are they're always going to con you, and sometimes they get away from it. So the guy with high people skills may not know how to
Yes.
see
Yeah.
that. Like
Yeah.
you
You
talk
need that
about,
lens.
yeah, you talk about dirty cars, right? You talk about
Yeah,
how
man.
the guy's swerving and moving. To the average untrained person, well, he's swerving and moving. To the trained officer like yourself, he's probably gonna hide something, right? And so
Everything happens for a reason.
yeah.
Like it could always be pure dumb luck that someone did something. That's
Mhm,
always on the table, and it
mhm.
should never be discounted. But when you're looking for criminal activity, like everything has meaning. If you're driving behind a car and as soon as you pull behind a car, if it takes the first right-hand turn into a neighborhood, maybe they live in that neighborhood. Maybe they don't. Like like
We'll
you're
find out.
like those things, like they stick out to the cops who are like really street smart. And
Yeah,
the you have to be a wolf if you want to catch a wolf. That's
yeah,
the way I always looked at it.
yeah,
Like you have to put yourself in the mind of a criminal if you want to be successful in catching criminals.
totally.
And there's a
It's
line, but you have to embrace it if you're going to
yeah,
be effective.
and truthfully, let's just be real here. Some people, some men and women shouldn't be cops, but the truth is we need all types out there to be cops because
Absolutely.
we're policing all types of people, and you can learn in an academy, you can excel in an academy, but when you get out there and you're policing people now, a
Yeah.
little bit different, a
Yeah.
little bit. But then here comes the old, what we call the Adam Henry effect or the Adam Henry syndrome. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Everybody's
Asshole.
an Adam Henry except for you, but maybe you're
Yeah.
the Adam Henry, right? And
Yeah.
so Adam Henry was just police jargon for asshole, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
how did that go for you? At some point, it had to happen, right?
Yeah. So, I talked about it in my book. We were all taught that in the academy, the asshole syndrome, where
Mhm.
you become a cop and basically the assholes are the bad guys. And then
Right.
it starts to turn into, well, it's the bad guys, but the general public. So not even people who've done anything wrong, but you just start to get this disdain for the general public.
Yeah.
And then it starts to, it's very territorial. Then it's like, oh, it's the South Side guys are the only guys that are, cool. The Foothills guys, the guys who work on the East Side. No,
Right.
this is about my district. And then you go from your district to just your squad. Your squad is perfect and everyone else is an asshole. And
Right.
then you whittle it down, and at the end of the day, what stares back at you at the mirror is you're the asshole. You're the one
Right.
that it's you're the problem. You become the toxic problem. It's not everyone else. You just developed a really sour taste in your mouth. And it could happen for a bunch of different reasons. For
Yeah.
me, I just burned out very quickly.
So,
It's honestly sad.
what advice do you give to a person who's in that 5-year asshole phase? Well, what do you? Well, number one, how do they recognize it? And number two, what should they do about it?
Well, first of all, you need I've changed so much from when I started until I ended. One of the biggest traits that a good cop has is emotional intelligence, having high EQ. Part of having high EQ is being self-aware, being able to reflect and understand how you're being perceived by others. So you have to learn how to read the temperature in the room. Like, what are your words mean? What are your actions? How are people perceiving that? And that actually takes a while to develop. But what advice I would give is for that 1 to 5 year cop, that's not your entire career, man. Your career is not going to be over in 5 years. You're going to do 20 or 25 years. Like, don't live your life like a candle lit at both ends, like I did, especially in the beginning, where everything you did was just police work. That was your sole identity. Like, that became my drug of choice, was police work. And
Hmm.
and what happened is all I did was identified with that. I lost my personal friends, and this was all my own choice, by the way. My personal friends, things that I would do on my own that identified me before I became a cop. I lost identity of that. I think when you start losing that personal identity and your only identity becomes law enforcement, like, it becomes a very difficult job for you to manage emotionally. So, like, take your time. It's not a sprint. Like, it's a marathon, man. Like it's if you spin yourself out in your first 5 years, like, who wins? No one wins. And you could destroy some really good relationships in that first 5 year window if you don't have good balance in your life. And that's where cops, I think, struggle, is that having that balance that they need in life to get them to the end. Because, like,
Hmm.
for me, I got my balance later on in my career. Luckily, I was able to stick it out long enough where I could actually grow as a person and grow as a cop. But if I would have continued at the pace that I was on for the first 3 or 4 years, I wouldn't have made it to 20 years. Like, it just no way, because I
It's
became a toxic person.
Yeah, and yeah, if I can just tell you from the outside looking in, from just watching you from far away, because when I would see you guys, it was usually I was either briefing your SWAT team or one of my guys was briefing your SWAT team, many people are like that, but you really stood out not only in doing a good job because everyone spoke very highly of your skill, but you also stood out in terms of, does he have a bad attitude or is he just really focused? You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
it's like a blurred line.
So that was always a struggle for me in my career.
Mhm.
And part of it is, like, people don't forget. By the way, you get one chance to make a first impression, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And unfortunately for me, I made a lot of bad first impressions. And it really wasn't like me being trying to be an asshole, but I was so intense and so into what I was doing that I gave off the wrong vibe.
Mhm.
Now, I later became, and I never talked about it in the book, but I became the class officer at the academy. And funny how that turns out, like, I used to be the class clown. Now I'm reaming people for being the idiots in the classroom, right? So,
Right.
but those first experiences with me as the class officer, like, that was very difficult for a lot of recruits. So they took that, which is really, you're just playing a role, right? And
Right. Right.
but a lot of them took that to heart, and then that became my identity. And then
Mm.
just different things throughout my career kind of shaped what people thought of me, sometimes for the right reasons, but more often than not for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. I learned a valuable lesson early on, and believe it, I learned it from a colleague of ours, from Andy Loza, okay? Props to Andy for this one, okay? He taught me this, and he was my partner for a long time, but what he
I
taught me was
remember.
this. One time we were in getting ready to do an op, okay? We're getting ready to do an op, and I was so frustrated because people weren't moving at the same they didn't have the same urgency as I did. Like, these guys wanted to go and watch the NCAA playoffs. And I'm like,
Yeah,
"Who cares about the playoffs, bro? I
I know.
wanna put this guy. I got 10 keys of cocaine waiting for me over here," you know
Yeah,
what I mean? And so, I had to realize this. This is the way Andy put it to me. He says, "Louis," he goes, "Yeah," he goes, "You and I, we work at this level.
that's right.
Most of those guys, they work somewhere down here. And then
Yeah,
there's a couple of them who work down here." He says, and then he says to me, "It's like the Diamondbacks. You got Randy Johnson. As great of a pitcher he is, he can't win the game by himself." And I really respected that because I was just so locked on, and like you, many times I was probably perceived as just being, an Adam Henry sometimes because I was just so locked on. I just wanted to win and put away people in prison and do my job as best I can. So I totally get it, man. Let's
Yeah,
change
so,
the temperature. Go ahead.
yeah, so what I was gonna say is, and what I learned was it's okay to have a personal expectation level of yourself,
Yeah,
but I shouldn't impose my personal expectation level of myself on other people because it's just not realistic. And
correct.
that's where I learned that valuable lesson is like, you know what? Not everyone is going to be as passionate about things as I am. It doesn't mean that they
Correct.
don't care. It just means that we approach things differently, and that's
Right.
okay. My
Yeah,
life became a lot easier once I accepted that.
and you know what? Some of those guys probably were had every reason to do that. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
totally get it.
sure.
I used to call them rods, retired on duties.
Well,
You know,
there's
but yeah, and maybe there's some wisdom in that. But let's change the temperature a little bit, man. Let's you at one point now you were in two shootings. Let's talk about the first shooting. The uniqueness about that was two things that are unique about it. Okay, you'll describe it, but what I found interesting about it was a very close range. So it was a very, very close range. And most shootings don't happen at that close of a range, at least in law enforcement, right? They're typically
yeah,
10 feet away or more, right?
yeah, yep.
And in your case, it was a special gun, apparently.
Oh, yeah, you're talking about my gun. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
But
Uh,
go ahead, man. So what happened with that shooting, man? Talk to us.
so, man, again, I was in part of a zero tolerance unit. I was burned out. I submitted my memo to leave the unit. The
Yeah.
next traffic stop I made turned out to be the traffic stop of my life. I saw a vehicle go left to center. It fit into my dirty car theory.
Yeah.
I was suspicious about why he went left to center as soon as I pulled behind him. Then I saw him crouching. I already lit him up. It basically started like a slow speed pursuit through a residential neighborhood. I knew he was going to bail out. Like, that's why they go into these residential neighborhoods. They're just trying to call someone, hey, open the
Right.
door, whatever. And so I saw him crouching through his rearview mirror, and I put out the code, hey man, 10-0. Like, it looks like he's reaching for something. And this shooting is pretty unique because the things that really get cops going are vehicle pursuits, foot pursuits, fights, and then a shooting. I got into all four in one. So he bails
Yeah.
from the car. He's running through a residential neighborhood, through a trailer park. He dips in through one like fence trailer and tries to jump a wooden fence. I tackle him, bring him down. It's just me at that point, and the fight is on. We're between the fence and a doghouse. There's no light there whatsoever. And when the fight is on, man, the fight is on. Like, and I was like wailing on this guy, but he wasn't complying with any commands. Then my buddy that I just got in on SWAT with shows up, and we're wrestling with this dude, and he's on his belly. And if you've ever tried to get someone's hands out from under their belly, man, like it's really hard. Like they just lock in. So we're trying to pry it, and my friend feels a gun. He says, gun, gun, gun. And as soon as he says that, I kind of start to push away and I start to draw my weapon. He
Yeah.
rolls over and basically points the weapon at me, and the round just goes right by me. And as that's happening, I put my gun on his chest and shot 4 contact shots to his chest at the same time. Right thereafter, like I mean, almost like a split second after my first shot or two, then my buddy shot him in the head.
That's pretty close range, man. It's pretty close
You
range.
can't get any closer. Like we're like
No.
less than 2 feet away, bro. Like that
Yeah.
for him to miss. Like I believe that part of it is skill. Like we were in good physical condition. That helped me. I just got in on SWAT. That helped me to slow everything down. But
Yeah.
there's luck in it too, because someone should not miss from less than 2 feet away.
Yeah. What kinda gun did he have? Do you remember?
I think it was like a 380. Yeah, I think it was. I'm
Okay.
pretty sure it was like a 380.
Wow. Wow.
Enough to do damage. Like that gun, that round went right by my head because at the angle that when he rolled up and shot up, it was at my head direction. So, I it's just one of those things, man. Everything goes in slow motion. You're on
You
autopilot. Like you said, you
yeah.
sync to your level of training. For me, luckily for me, I had some really good training up to that point.
Yeah.
and we were able to win that fight. But you don't
When
get into the car chase, the foot chase, the physical fight, and the shooting. I had never gotten an adrenaline dump like that in my career up to that point, and everything after that never reached that level of adrenaline, except maybe just in a different way for like another traumatic incident. But
uh-huh.
everything else after that never reached that high.
Mhm. That's pretty up close, man. You went through the officer involved shooting situation, and that was I've had my rights read to me too by police as well. Kind of not a good feeling, but you were cleared and you survived it. Well, how did you deal with the aftermath of that?
Well, it was difficult for me because I didn't have my family relationship. I didn't have couldn't talk to my grandmother. She had moved out here. I didn't
Okay,
have her to rely on. My dad and I were like kind of like friends. We didn't have a kind of relationship that I could really talk to him about like what was going on in my head.
right.
The only people I had were SWAT guys. And so I remember they drove me home because they took my car as evidence,
Uh-huh.
put it in impound, and I just felt like completely isolated. I really didn't have many outlets. I didn't really have many people to talk to. And then, little shortly thereafter, I got suspended from SWAT for something like really lame,
Jeez.
not showing up for court. I never got the subpoena. I couldn't prove it otherwise, but the person who made the complaint was someone who, really had a hard on, honestly, for the TAC guys and made a big stink about it. So then I got suspended for a month, and the only really support system I had was taken away from me. So,
Let's talk about that suspension a little bit, okay?
yeah, man.
As much as I agree with you that it was kind of a BS, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it was.
However, as law enforcement, we know we're held to a higher standard, right? But more importantly, as a SWAT officer, even a higher standard. And I can tell you this: not every agency is the same. Okay, missing court is almost like a badge of honor for some SWAT teams. I would think, well, he missed court. He's SWAT guy. He's blah 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 blah. Your particular SWAT team, and I know the leadership there at that time held everyone to the same standard in terms of if you fail to meet certain things, you're suspended for 30 days. So you're Erick Maldonado. So what? So you're so and so. So what? And it happens. I remember that, and it happens. So good for them to do that. That means every single time the SWAT guy shows up, he is like requalifying. He's retrying out. You know what I mean? So good for them for that, I guess.
Yeah, like I don't have a issue with the SWAT guys, like suspending me. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I did think it was pretty cheese dick on that
Yes.
sergeant because
You're right.
you know
I
I
totally
I
agree
did
with that.
tackle someone who was going to point a gun at him previously on a traffic stop. I
Wow.
thought he maybe owed me one.
I n Bro, I'm with you on that 100%, 100%. It's just we have all types in police work, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
The
you're on
tech guys
SWAT.
and the admin guys just never got along. That was the problem. It's still that way in the department now. And I'm
It's
not even there. Like that's always been it. Is the tech
yeah.
guys and the admin guys never get along, man. They're always like trying to take stuff out on one another and they don't realize like who it actually hurts.
It's the same way in the military. You got
Yeah.
the cool dudes versus the intel
Yeah.
dudes, the cool dudes
Yeah.
versus the admin dudes, same thing. It's just this internal ego battle that happens. So you're on SWAT. You were there for how long were you on SWAT?
So I was on SWAT for 10 years and like 8 months after I left, I got on K9.
Okay, got it. So you're there 10 years. By the way, during that time, I have to tell you here, I want to thank you. I want to thank your guys. I mean, all down the list. I mean, I remember I would name them, but I don't want to leave names out.
Correct.
And that you guys were from Petro to Kubitsky to see now I'm naming names, Carpenter to Kester, all them dudes, man. You guys, all you guys, what we were so at ease when we knew those guys are waiting some close by and we're in the middle of some bad stuff, you
No,
know?
I appreciate that, man. Feelings mutual. We
I
love
am
working
very
with you and Andy.
Yeah, I'm
Got
very
us a lot of
grateful.
business.
We did, man. A lot
We
of
sure did.
warrants, a lot of street jumps, a
Yep,
lot of stuff. But so I want to say thank you guys. Okay, I wrote about you guys
absolutely.
in my book, and I'm talking about you guys in there. I'm very, very, very grateful to that county team, as I refer to it on my book. At some point, were you out of SWAT already when the second shooting happened, or were you in K-9?
So no, I was still on SWAT. The second
Okay,
shoot, my first shooting happened in '98. Second one happened in 2006. So about a year and a half, 2 years before I left SWAT.
okay, and so that was kind of an interesting one because you were bring us back to that moment when you're it's a big dually truck, right? And it's reported stolen. You guys you guys doing cop work. You guys are searching for stolen
Hey
cars.
man,
Go ahead.
shit madness. That's what it is, man.
Hit
Like
magnets.
that's what. So I was on my way home from a warrant service. My buddy
Yeah.
Petro said, "Hey man, I just got a low jack hit. I had a low jack on my vehicle,
That was
and
That was Petropolis?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah, it
I
was
knew his
Petro."
dad, man. I knew his dad. I loved his dad. That was
Yeah,
cool on me,
so
man.
I basically it was, like, east of I-10, off
Yeah.
of, like, that, First Avenue, north of Grand area, like, that area is a really
Yeah.
shitbag neighborhood, man, like,
Yeah.
between chop shops and dope, and, like, it is just a haven for criminal activity, so I
Yep.
had an idea, like, okay, it's gonna be, like, in this residential area, so we just, the signal gets stronger and stronger, we triangulate it, Petro
Yep.
says, "Hey, listen, I come down this little easement." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I double back and he's already walking down the easement. I'm like, "Fuck it. I'm just gonna drive down the easement just on the off chance the vehicle's there."
Right.
And as I'm coming up, driving down the easement, it opens up into like a dirt lot where there's maybe like three properties on it, like three trailers. And then on the right side, there's a chain link fence and another property completely different than this one. And as I come up into this opening, I could see the Dodge Dually off to my left. And dude, when I looked over there, I'm doing a slow roll. I'm creeping up on him. The suspect's in the driver's seat, and you could just see that look of panic on his face. He was like,
Yeah.
and like he looked at me, I looked at him, and I knew like it's fucking on, like right
It's
now. Dude, that dude took out like a bat out of hell out of that parking spot. He whipped around me, and I think he saw that Petro had parked his car like somewhere along the easement. So I think he thought he might have been blocked in. So he doubled back and then started doing donuts. He just he crashed right into me, which I thought was and like I felt and I still feel like he did that on purpose to
Mhm.
kind of disable my vehicle so I wouldn't pursue him because he knew Petro was on foot.
Yeah.
And basically he starts doing like a it was like being in a in a rodeo ring with a fucking bull, and that bull was pissed off because that dually is massive, man, and I had
Oh, yeah.
nowhere to go, and I'm thinking, "Should I get out of my car?" But I don't wanna get run over, but I know if I stay in this car, he's gonna fucking hit me again because he's literally doing donuts, like, right off of my, driver's side my passenger side window, and I lost sight of Petro. I'm like, "I have no idea where he is." Like, he might have been, like, run over for all I know,
Damn.
and all of a sudden, I see the driver just, like, coming towards my passenger side, and I'm like, "Man, this is gonna fucking hurt," and all of a sudden, he takes off, crashes through the other fence separating the property that's to the west, starts driving like a maniac there, and all of a sudden, I see him like he's crashed into a Palo Verde tree, and then the
Mhm.
cavalry starts arriving, and I see that Petro had made it over to his side,
And
and
Petro's on foot still, right? You said he's on
he was
foot?
on foot. He made it over to that side to where the vehicle was now at, and TPD was coming in because it happened in the city, which
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
cluster too, because we're county, we're in the city. So TPD starts coming in, and we have, unfortunately, some people out on foot. So I get out of my car and I just want to consolidate the resources. I start coordinating, hey, let's contain the vehicle, let's pin them in so we don't have to, deal with this issue again because this guy was going to kill someone if
Yeah.
he got loose. So I'm coming across this open parking lot area, and I see a commander, one of our commanders, sheriff's department commander, basically standing behind a dually, gun out, giving the dually commands like, get out. It's like, dude,
It's
like
not gonna
we
happen.
already have patrol cars coming in. Like, use those patrol cars for cover.
Yeah.
I'm right, and so at that point, I'm almost like parallel to the vehicle, so I'm about 15 yards away, and I can see the driver, and he puts the car in reverse, and the tire starts spinning, and the vehicle, it starts to rock back out, and at that point, like, in my mind is working like a supercomputer. I'm thinking about,
Yep.
like, what's the probability of him getting out of that spot, and I'm like analyzing. Well,
They're
it's
pretty
a
good.
4x4 capability. It's a massive vehicle. Like, I've got a window here. Like, if he continues to get traction, he's literally going to go go in reverse, as he was in reverse to get out. He's going to run over the commander and anyone else who was on foot. So
Yeah.
at that time, I was like, you know what? I need to use deadly force. I got to stop him from doing what he is currently doing, which was he was being an active aggressor. He was not complying to all the commands. He was still trying to evade apprehension from law enforcement. The threat to the public and law enforcement were extremely high. I felt I met all the justification standards for deadly force, and then I shot six rounds,
Yeah.
and
And
I didn't
and
know at that point that Petro had shot him too.
got it.
That's the
Got
crazy
it.
thing, because
Wow.
when he was doing donuts, Petro shot the guy through his windshield. I'm sorry, through his driver's side window, but it got lodged in the navel cavity, and that's what people
Really?
need to understand. Don't ever underestimate people's will to survive.
Oh, yeah.
People do not want to go back to prison. This dude was going to go back to prison. He had prior charges for auto theft.
Yep.
You know, like, people always say, "Oh, well, it's just a property crime. It's a property crime." Some of the most violent people I've met have committed property crimes, and they just didn't want to go back to prison. The
Yeah.
first guy I shot and killed, he had told his significant other that if he ever got stopped by the cops, he wasn't going to go back to prison. This
Yeah.
dude told his family that he was never going to go back to prison. So he was doing everything to avoid apprehension. So don't ever estimate someone's will to survive. He shot him in the nasal cavity. I think
Mhm.
it got stuck here in the nasal cavity. Listen, man, he shot him in the ear, but it got lodged in the nasal cavity.
Wow.
That should have incapacitated him, but that didn't. What turned out to be the lethal round on autopsy was a round that I shot on his side, because all I had was a profile view that kind of just ricocheted inside and lodged in his lung, and then he aspirated on his blood. That
Wow.
was what determined to be his fatal wound.
The when a bad guy is determined to not go, he's gonna
Mhm.
fight to the very end. And
Damn
and
right.
the flip side to that too is, as cops, we need to also embrace that. Like, you need to fight to the very end.
Your will to survive has to be equal, if not greater, than your adversary.
That's right.
It
That's right.
cannot be less. If it is less, you will not go home. You can not People will do I have seen heinous crimes. People will
Mhm.
do anything. Just when you think you've seen it all, then you see something, you're like, "Oh my god, how can someone do that?"
This
People who do not wanna go to jail will do
right.
everything under the sun to avoid apprehension. That includes killing you if
That's
you're
right.
in the way.
Look, I tell people, I would tell cops, you're gonna fight. When I would train narcs, you're gonna fight until you no longer are in the fight and you don't know it, or
Yep,
you know it and you have survived and
yep,
you won. Either
yep,
way, you're gonna fight to the very end. So I'm glad you survived that, man. And so another officer involved shooting situation. They took you in like an old pro now,
yep.
and they took your pictures, and I'm glad you survived that. You protected your fellow man, and props to Petropolis for heck of a shot, man, and a lot of respect for him as well. A lot of respect for him.
He's one of the best cops I've ever worked with.
Yeah, dude, I love that guy. When you guys would come and cover me and Andy on deals, and Frank Gomez as well, Pancho, I love Pancho, and I was always I was his nephew all the time. I played his nephew that was a student. He did amazing. And, a lot of respect for those guys, a lot of gratitude for you guys and your team, knowing you guys had our back, so many thanks. Now, you eventually get into K-9, and then that's a whole other, interview process. You were selected for K-9, and, you work with several dogs, right? And so what was it like, in summary, and I have some questions after that, what was it like working a dog?
For me, it was the best assignment I've ever worked.
Yeah.
people who've never, first of all, you have to want to be a handler to work a dog properly. It's not a toe in the water assignment. You got to be completely in because your life revolves around that dog.
Right.
But there's no greater bond than there is between a handler and a dog. Even the bond between cop and cop, it's different.
Yeah.
Working with the dog, that dog is with you at home. That dog is with you at work. The
Hmm.
dog is with you when you're fighting bad guys. Like you, you hunt together, you fight together, you experience the highs, you experience the lows.
Yeah.
Like there's no greater feeling than working with a dog. Plus, as a handler, you're going to all the priority calls. So like
Right.
you have free reign, at least for us, like we have free reign in the county. We go anywhere we want in the county. There's a
Hmm.
call on the north side. Boom. We're on the south side. Hit I-10, fly up there. Boom. There's another call on east. Aubrey, go to that call. Go back south. Go to Green Valley. Go to 3 Points. Like it's just constant motion, constant hunting for people. It's the ultimate high,
Yeah.
like to search for someone. And it is also the most primitive way to search for a human is to
Yeah.
use an animal and then allow
Right.
that animal to physically dominate that person. And then when you get in on the fight with them and there's that screaming and yelling and blood, like
Yeah.
it's so visceral. No, to me, and you know, I said in my book, I've been in 2 fatal shootings. Nothing is more violent than a dog bite. It is the most violent interaction I've ever had
Yeah.
with anyone.
Um, yeah, it's the thing about working with a dog, and just from being a dog lover and having had many dogs myself. By the way, all my German shepherds have been named Mighty, so props to my boy Mighty. Okay,
I I see him in the pictures.
yeah, yeah. So the thing about working with a dog, and you probably can affirm this, is they unconditionally love you. They unconditionally are beside you. They and you are their hero, but yet they're kind of your hero. There's this mutual love and respect, right?
Yeah, there's a bond.
They don't all love you. I know. We
So
got the demon.
I so it's just so hard for me because I'm a certified trainer. What people mistake as love, what they think is love is what's really pack drive. So dogs
Yes,
work out of drives.
right,
They don't. Okay, so the intellect level of a dog is that of a 2-year-old. So
right.
they everything they do is they work out of their canine drives, and then as handlers, you exploit their drives to train and shape a specific behavior. So that emotional attachment that you have with your dog, for them, they don't experience it as love. They experience it as pack drive. Like they feel that need to protect you
Reward.
and to be close to you. So they experience that as pack. So when you're training a dog, let's say you're doing obedience, you're in pack drive mode because they have to respect the order of the pack, that you're the alpha, so that when you administer correction, that they don't bow up on you. So yeah, so yeah,
No,
but I will say that in layman's terms, you love your dog and that dog loves you.
yeah,
And that here's the thing, that dog, this is the difference between working with a person and working with a dog. I know what I'm gonna get out of that dog in a fight. I know it
yeah.
because they work out of drives. They're not thinking about their wife that they might not see at the end of the night, or their
No
kids, or the
fear.
bills, or nothing like that. They're thinking pure aggression. I'm in a fight. I'm going to continue until I finish the fight. That
That's
dog
right.
will die
Hell yeah,
defending you. And that's the difference because I
yeah,
know 100% what I'm going to get out of that dog. Whereas when you deal with a person, you're dealing with this and what's
yeah,
currently going on in their head. And are they in fight or flight mode? Like there are people I would trust with my life. Petro, like I would trust with my life. You know, Steve
yeah,
Carpenter, guys I've worked with,
yeah,
like they know what
yeah,
they're going to give me. But even then, you're still dealing with a human being, people who can make decisions. Dogs act purely out of drive, and that's why the bond is so special.
and a dog, I don't think they don't have any fear. They don't have fear.
Well, the
They see
right
threat,
dogs,
and they
yeah.
boom.
So these dogs, when we get these dogs, first of all, they come from Holland. They go to a vendor. By the time the vendor shows us the dog has had about 2.5 years of the training. And
Yeah.
when we test the dogs, we test their hunt drive, their fight drive, and their prey drive. Like we have to make sure
Yeah.
that we get a dog that's going to fight until they can't fight anymore.
Right.
Now, there are dogs that just don't have that drive. We would not
Right.
select them. So when you see, and by the way, not all police dogs have those drives. And that's where you see a lot of videos of things going wrong with canine deployments in the field.
Yeah.
It's poorly selected dogs, dogs with the wrong drives. They shouldn't be doing police work.
Yeah.
And then handlers who don't have the experience to understand that.
And with dogs, it's a constant course correction and a constant recertifying, retraining,
Yeah.
all that stuff, right? Yeah.
Well, you train every week, you train 8 hours a week, and then you certify once a year through whatever organization. For us, it was the National
Yeah.
Police Canine Association,
Yeah.
through an unbiased party that can, look and evaluate your dog and say, yeah, you meet the standards. Because when you certify together as a team, meaning I'm the one that works that dog, no one else.
And it's interesting, I learned from reading your book was that you debrief the person that gets bit by the dog.
Yeah. Well,
I
first of
didn't
all,
know that.
like one, you should, because you want to ask them questions like, "Hey, did you hear my canine warnings?" If they say yes, then no, yeah, I heard your canine warnings. A lot of people will say, I thought you were bluffing. I didn't think you had a dog."
Did you
Because
hit the dog
my
bark?
dogs they weren't very vocal. So like these
Okay.
dogs figure it out after a while. They understand that if
They're
they bark,
smart.
like they might give up. So the dogs won't bark unless you make them bark on command.
Yeah.
But yeah, we debrief them, like, what were you thinking? Why did you run?
Yeah.
Why did you fight the dog? Because you'd
Yeah.
be surprised what people will tell you. Like I've had people literally thank me after dog biting them. They're like, hey, oh, I've had people say, by the way, I just want to let you know, you've trained your dog really, really well. He did a really good job biting me. I have
That's
had people
awesome.
tell me that. Like,
I would have never
you can't make that shit up, bro.
I would never imagine that. Dude,
No,
I
you
love
can't make it up.
dogs, man. I saw the pictures of your dogs. We're gonna share some on here as well.
Yeah.
But your first dog was kind of a problem, Barry, right? And he was almost
Dude.
like it was a little mm,
So I love Barry because Barry taught me a lot. I could not have worked the dogs that I worked after Barry had it not been for Barry. But
mm,
Barry came with behavioral issues, mostly because, yeah, I'm not going to name names, but, the handler who had him before had behavioral issues. He
okay,
was fired because of temperament and behavioral issues.
got it.
Those behavioral issues were embedded in the dog. The dog became very defensive and reactive. And it got to
Yeah,
the point where we needed to cut our losses, send him back to a vendor. Like for me, it was the first time I had ever failed in my career. Like I really doubted my ability. I was like, what the fuck, man? Like this is not
yeah,
the way it was supposed to go. And then I was
right.
given a shot with my second dog, Jack, who turned out to be the best dog I've ever worked.
Mm.
But I was able to take what I learned from Barry, the hard lessons, and I was able to apply them to Jack and every other dog I worked after that.
Now, is Jack this is Angry Jack?
His Angle Jack.
No, I love watching dogs work and do their thing, man. Why did he get sick, man?
So some dogs, okay, so he got sick twice. I can't. I know you're talking about when he died.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so because he got sick when he was during his career, he had an undiagnosed E. coli, and then his
Mm,
prostate swelled, and we thought we are gonna have to put him down, but we figured it out, and he was on light duty for like 3 months. But when he died, so retirement is hard on some of these dogs. You have
yeah,
to understand, like this job is very physical for the dogs. And if you're doing your training and the bite work and the jumping and the leaping and all that stuff, this dog, like he had been choked, punched, eye gouge, you name it, man. Like kicked. That dog experienced everything.
yeah,
But it's also hard on their hips. And
yeah.
for him, he didn't live long after he retired. Some dogs will last 3 or 4 years, but he only lasted about a year and a half. And
Mm,
he had some really bad back hip problems. And one day my wife woke me up and said, hey, something's wrong with Jack. He can't get up. So I went to the kitchen and I saw him like laying on the ground. She said that he had snapped at her, which was really unlike him. So I helped him up. I picked him up from his belly and I carried him outside. I was watching him, go to the bathroom, and he went to poop. And when he did, he didn't have the strength to hold himself up anymore, and he fell in his own feces.
Wow.
And you got to understand, these dogs are proud. They're the best of the best. And there was no way that I was going to let him live in without that level of dignity that he deserved.
Right.
So I took him to the vet and down.
What
That
was
was
that like,
probably
man? Knowing he's your buddy, he was your partner, and having to put him down.
it's probably the hardest thing to do.
Yeah, yeah. And then it happened again with another dog, right? It was Kenzo, one of your partner's dogs?
So that was the last thing at the end of my career. So, I had become a patrol supervisor, promoted at K9, became a patrol supervisor, then had stuff happen there, go to search and rescue. And then
Yeah.
at the end of my career, we had Kenzo. He was strangled to death in the line of duty. He's one of my good friends on the department, one of my canine handlers. I supervised them. And that was on the heels of losing a deputy
Yeah.
just unexpectedly. Literally, the day that deputy's ashes were interred, Kenzo was killed in the line of duty. So that was very difficult. That was the nail in the coffin for me in the end.
Yeah.
I had other things
Yeah.
that go into the book, the double homicide suicide. That was the worst thing in my career. But I planned to do 30 years. I made it to 29, but I just couldn't. I had nothing in the tank. I was
Yeah.
done.
It's hard having to put an animal down in the first place, and it's even I mean, it's gotta be so much harder when it's your partner, man, he's like, you guys went through some shit together, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like, I mean, I've had to put a German Shepherd down, broke my damn heart, man.
yeah,
I think it was the first time my son ever saw me cry like a baby boy.
yeah. I've never cried like that before.
Yeah. You mentioned you talk about there's that murder-suicide that happened, man, and it was right around Christmas time, the holidays. Police work has a way of messing up the holidays for people, for cops, you know what I mean? We
Yeah,
relate a lot of these holidays to other things. Like me, I'm not the person you wanna be around in Christmas time. I'm like the Grinch, you know what I'm
yeah.
saying? It's sorta weird, man, but what happened with that when you it was a call, let's just get right to the call, and there was a husband calls threatening the wife, "You're not gonna see the kids again."
Right.
Sort of like he was baiting her to come in, to go
Yeah,
to the house, they were separated,
yeah.
and you get to that was it a condo? Go ahead.
Yeah, so it looks like on the surface they're it looks like apartments, but they're really just being sold as condominiums. It's in a really nice area of town, Fontana Canyon. You
Yeah,
know the area.
I
So it was in
figured.
that neighborhood. I pull up to the gate, got punch in my code, and the mom pulls up behind me. She was at the intersection when I pulled up to the intersection, and I had a red light, and I didn't wanna wait for her. I didn't know it was her. I just turned on my overhead lights and cut
Yeah,
in front of her. Thank
yeah,
God I did. So she
yeah,
comes up, she's pounding on my window. She's like, "Hey, like, I know he's gonna hurt them. I know where the apartment is. Let me show you where the apartment is." So, at that point, I felt like, I can't introduce her into what could be a very hostile environment. Based on the call text, like, it was kinda suspicious, but to be honest with you, people who are going through divorce make complaints about each other all the time. They
yeah,
make false claims, but there was something about it that maybe it was the parental instinct where it told me like this might be serious because he was supposedly he was retired military, owned several weapons, but he had no criminal history, no issues,
yeah,
no mental health issues that we knew of.
yeah,
And so I told him, like, okay, I need you to stay in a specific area, in a designated area that we could find her later on. I said, don't worry about it. I'll find it. And I told her that everything would be okay. I didn't know if everything was going to be okay, but I told her that because that's what she needed to hear at the moment so that she could
right.
stay there and not like come up behind me. So I show up with another deputy and we're trying to make contact the front door. Ultimately, there's no response. You know, I'm trying to get a phone number. I go around the back. I see that the light is on. We're looking for his vehicle. And I had already brought up my breaching tools because something in my heart told me I'm gonna have to go in there and I need to be ready to breach that door. And we hadn't gotten the response that I had hoped for. And I got frustrated. So I said, you know what? If he's in there, I'm gonna poke the bear.
Can I
So
pause
I
you for a
pound
minute?
Go
Can
ahead.
I pause
Go
you for
ahead,
a
man.
minute? You
Yeah.
said you didn't get the response you were hoping for. Was that like some exigent circumstances that would allow you to get in? Can you explain
Right.
that briefly?
So, you know, based on the fact that all he told her was, "Hey, if you don't come over here, you're not going to talk to your kids anymore." That's a very vague comment, right? Like the Fourth Amendment protects people against unlawful searches and seizures. The home is the pinnacle of privacy that
Correct.
the courts respect. You need to have specific reasons where you would do some sort of warrantless entry, i.e., exigent circumstances, which would include a medical aid doctrine, right? So I didn't have any legal authority to go in other than a vague comment. That's why
Right.
I was looking for the phone number. So maybe I could hear the phone going off inside and I can kind of like add that to my pot of
Why you had to
PC
go
that I
in?
needed to get in. Let's see if
Yeah.
his vehicle's here. Let me look around the back, see if I see movement. But up to that point, I didn't feel I had met the legal threshold to make a warrantless entry. So,
Yeah.
which is why I decided, okay, I'm going to poke the bear. I want to see if he does something or says something. Give me something where I can say, yes, you're in there. Maybe the kids are in danger. I can now legally go into the home. So that's kind of where we were at. So I pounded
And
on the door and I said, Levi Parker, I know you're fucking inside this apartment. Open this goddamn fucking door. I'm gonna knock it down. And then I heard pop. So it's on. Like, like
now,
it's go
when you were
time.
there, were you there by yourself at the door?
I was just one other deputy. He was new. And again, everything goes in slow motion, but my actions were real time. So I just started pounding on the door with my sledgehammer. That's the equipment, unfortunately, the equipment I had at the time. And in
Yeah.
that time, I'm like, because I knew he had rifles based on the call text. I'm like, man, this is gonna hurt. Like, I'm gonna get zippered right through this door. And then, you know, you just wrap your brain around the fact that, you know what? I may not see my kids again. I
Let
may
me
not
pause
see
you
my
for a
wife
second.
again.
Let me expand on that a little bit. For those who
Yeah,
don't understand, when you make the choice to pass breach number one, number two, cross the threshold of that door in what we call the fatal funnel, right? Like that's a lot of things went through your mind, and that's what makes us so special, man. We're the ones that they call when the shit hits the fan and no one else can go.
that's right.
And that is the job of a policeman, of a deputy, and people don't understand that. There's a lot of serving and protecting, but when it's time to protect, your job is to get the boogeyman because no one else can do it. Oh, and you did that, and what happened,
You're
man?
the answer.
You're the
You're the
answer.
answer. You're the final answer.
That's it.
That's it. No one else is coming to save you.
That's it.
No
So,
one's gonna come there and fix the problem. It's either you or no one else.
and you went in, and then what?
So we went in and dude, this place, you ever go into a place, well, I know you have
Yeah.
because of the stash houses, but you ever go to a place that just doesn't feel lived in? Like it
Yeah.
feels cold, right?
Yeah.
And when I went in, like there was barely any furniture. You could feel like the coldness in the room, in the apartment. So we do a quick search because we didn't get any more stimulus, but we know he's in there. We know these two little girls are in there. Their ages 5 and 8. And so we do a quick search in the main area, and I could see that the bedroom door is the last room, and the door is closed. And that's it, man. Like, you know, he's in that room.
One more
That's
door.
it. Like, you're going in, and the way I describe it is, you're going into the lion's den, but you know the lion is in it.
Yep.
That's the difference. It's not like we think he might be here. No, you know he's in here. You know he's armed. You heard a gunshot. You know what this is about now. So I popped that door, dude, and I had seen a lot of stuff. But I've never seen anything like that. Soon as I popped the door, right in front of me, there was a girl, 5 years old. She was laying on the bed with an AK-47 right next to her. On her left side, she had a gunshot wound to her right temple. She had agonal breathing. So basically, she was just gasping for life. So now we got to dump in the room, but I don't know where he is because I can't see him from the door. Right. So I pop in the room and I'm clearing a part of the room, and I come around and off to the left in the deep corner on my left, I see the other daughter just sitting down against the wall like this, perfectly still with a gunshot wound to the center of her forehead. Pop
Damn.
around the bed. I see right around the corner of the bed. The last place that we searched that room was where the dad was. He was also sitting down across from his daughter that he had shot in the right between the eyes. With a gunshot, self-inflicted gunshot wound. He also had agonal breathing. Now, like these kids, I want you to know these kids were wearing the same pajamas my kids were wearing for the month of December. The same exact, they were from Costco. I remember them. Like
Yeah.
the same ones. And like something happens to you. Like, here's the thing. You have to have the extreme capability to compartmentalize in critical situations like this. My emotions were through the roof, but I had to compartmentalize it because, like, if there was a chance that we could save the girl that was on the bed, we needed to do everything that we could. That means coordinate a response, get meds there, and most importantly, get a deputy to the mom because she cannot come to the scene because she was going to see the cavalry come. And if she sees the cavalry come, she's going to know that her worst nightmare came true.
Wow. That's horrible, man. That's horrible.
That was the, and it wasn't just that, it was the stuff that happened afterwards, man.
Right.
That was the, it was some of the worst times of my life.
Right. Right. What made it so hard on you at that time?
So, I don't know, I want your listeners to understand this. I wish God would have taken me that night. I wanted it to be me. I already come to, I had that come to Jesus in my head, wrap my brain around it, and I was okay with it. I lived my life, man. And but they were spared, not me.
Yeah.
To this day, if I had a choice, I would give up my life for those girls. And it sounds crazy because that means I would never experience my kids or my wife. I would never see my daughter who's going to graduate in May. I would never see her graduate. That's survivor's remorse, bro. Like that is real. And I had that for a long time and I still have it to some degree. But the things that happened afterward really is what really killed me. Like I went to the memorial service and the sheriff was up front and he was, talking, I'm sorry about what happened, but he realizes that I'm in the crowd and he points at me. He says, and I want to thank the hero that went in that day.
Yeah.
Uh, but I'm not a hero. I'm the furthest thing from a hero. And I was getting text messages the next day and the day after saying, bro, what you did was some heroic stuff. Or, you know, only you could have done something like that.
Right.
And I understand what they mean, but I'm not a hero. There's nothing heroic. They died. I lived. End of story. The only person that lived was the mom that like I altered that chain of events. I got there before she did, or else he would have killed her too. And then the mom wanted to meet with me, so I felt her I owed her that much. I told her that everything would be okay, and it wasn't okay. So
Right.
I went to her home, off duty with my wife, and it was, dude, my legs felt like they were lead walking up to the front door, and I knocked on the front door, guy answered, and, I could see the mom at the kitchen table, and she gets up and she, walks towards me, and I walk inside the home, and I can't even look at her. I just bowed my head, and I asked her for forgiveness. because I failed. You know, I'm Erick Maldonado. I'm the guy who's been in multiple shootings, was on SWAT, was on K9, did stuff that people thought were super cool that, you
Yeah.
know, get put on a pedestal in life sometimes for the wrong reasons. People don't understand, like, people put value in things that they should never have put value on. In and this was a failure in my heart. I know that I couldn't have done anything different, but it doesn't change the fact that, man, it should have been me that night. And I begged her and I asked her for forgiveness. And she did something that no other human has ever showed me in my life. She showed me kindness,
Mm.
kindness that I didn't feel I deserved, you know? Like, no one has ever treated me that way. And she thanked me. She thanked me for doing all I could have done and for saving her life.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I felt like I was the biggest disappointment in mankind.
Yeah. It's a heavy burden that we carry, but better us than other people would have to carry that burden, you know?
That's why they make cops.
That's
Why God creates us.
that's the privilege, I guess, we get for doing that, you know, because not everybody can do this, man. Not everybody can do this.
Here's the thing, Lou. I still have a relationship with this lady to this
Mhm.
day
Yep.
because she asked me to go to a memorial service
Yep.
for her kids, and she did it for a couple of years, and it's the Angel Tree Memorial, Tree of Life, and when they call their name, you grab the angel ornament from the tree, and the second year that it was done, she couldn't make it in time. She got held up in work. She works at a hospital, and, through a family friend, they contacted me, and she said, she asked me to be the representative for the family, to be the one to take the angel ornaments off the tree. So when they called her daughter's names, I was the one who represented her, and I went up and I picked up the angel ornaments, and then I met with her afterwards, and I went to give it to her, and she said she wanted me to keep them so that I could remember them. And those ornaments go on my Christmas tree every year so I can remember. And every Christmas, I reach out to her because I don't ever want her to think that I've forgotten.
She had kept you in contact with the family. You guys are still part of the you became part of the family in a way. And, let me just ask you this, man. How are you sleeping now? How are you doing now?
Well, with that incident, I'm doing a lot better. I think retirement is very difficult. There's a big void that occurs when you retire, especially if you've done assignments where there's high adrenaline. Listen, let's be realistic. Most guys who are on 29 years, they're not like getting after it in the field. I was already a supervisor and I retired
Yeah.
in canine. That's a hard assignment to be in when you retire, but it's a high adrenaline assignment. And when you've done SWAT, search and rescue, canine, and then there's this immediate void, like you lose a sense of identity and purpose. And the struggle in retirement is a real thing. And what I really appreciate about the book that I wrote is how many people, the reviews are great on Amazon, but I can't tell you how many people have contacted me personally who are experiencing, they're still dealing with PTSD, or they're still struggling in retirement and finding new purpose. And I think it's so important to reinvent yourself. You reinvented yourself, like, because I will never be a cop again. First of all, I don't ever want to be a cop again, but in that high, I will never be able to get that high again. But if I find something that fills that void and something that I'm passionate about, that that makes me want to wake up in the morning and feel excited, like that's a win. And it turned into the book. It turned into me, teaching, across the United States. It's turned into me creating my own business for leadership and for dealing with PTSD. Like now I feel like I have more purpose, but that loss of identity, man, it's real. Like, that struggle is very, very real,
Yeah.
and a lot of cops experience that, when I know your career, and I know how and why things happen, and when that comes to a halt, especially when you don't want it to or didn't expect it or anticipate it, like, I knew I was gonna retire, and it was still a struggle,
Yeah.
you know? Like, when you leave something you love, man, that is very, very difficult.
So how you sleeping?
I actually the sleeping isn't bad, it's the isolation, like, when I'm awake. Uh, like, when your wife goes to work, the kids don't live at home anymore, you don't really have much to do.
Yeah.
That's the isolation, it's the quiet time that messes with people. It messes with me. I'll be honest with you, like, I live up in Northern Arizona now, right? And my wife goes to work, and I don't have friends here. My friends communicate with me through text messages,
Right.
and I don't really have much to do other than, like, building my own business, writing, or teaching. But those in between times when I'm not, like, mentally active, those isolating times, those are difficult. And I think you have to learn how to kinda cope with that.
Yeah.
But you have to be proactive about it. You just can't, like, just wallow in your self-pity and be like, "Oh my god, I've got nothing to do." Like, you have to be proactive about it and do something and get after it. Reinvent yourself, like I said.
There you go, man. There you go. And that's all you can do. You cannot stay in the same old,
No, man.
and you get lost. But look, an idle mind is definitely the devil's playground, man. You know. And so, tell me about your business. What is it called again?
It's called Command Under Pressure. You can find it at commandpressure.com. We're focusing on leadership in law enforcement, specifically during critical incidents, the development of especially young supervisors. This is a lane that really isn't being covered, but a lot of it is like performance psychology, like why, the performance under stress, the psychological, the physiological responses of the
Yeah.
body, how to master yourself so that and I have a saying, master yourself so you can control the chaos in your head. And that is not just the tactical decision, but it's the leadership doctrine. It's living with the aftermath of your decisions, because
Right.
I want people to understand this. You could do everything right and still have a catastrophic end result. That night with the double homicide suicide, I could not have done anything differently.
You know,
It was still the worst result, and that's just part of it. That's what you have to accept.
I had a conversation once with Jordan Peterson, who I highly recommend you listen to, okay, or read his books, okay? And he says, as long as, and he also said this on on another podcast once, as long as you know the difference between right and wrong, you will be able to deal with the post traumatic stress, and it doesn't
Yeah,
become a post traumatic stress disorder. I personally, I'm for post traumatic success.
there you
That's
go.
what we wanna focus on, the
Yeah,
post-traumatic success. The fact is, those things have happened. You're here today. You're a living, breathing example of someone who's maybe made some mistakes, someone who probably
we all have.
expected more of their peers as much as they expected of themselves. And along the way, look, we cannot forget to mention you were also a supervisor with search and rescue. Props to those guys. Very dangerous job. I remember TJ Price is like he is like the lord of search and rescue as far as I
Yeah, the
know, right?
Godfather. Yeah,
And so much respect to TJ Price, much love to him.
yeah,
Oh,
100%.
listen, as we wrap up, I want to tell everybody, if you are a new cop, read this book. If you're an old cop, read the book, both for
You
the
got it.
same reasons, for the same. New cop knows what to expect and what to expect and how to process it. A lot of good points on combat breathing, how to make sure you don't become a victim of yourself with the tunnel vision, all those things that happen. And
Yeah.
and and then a lot of help for the old cop, stuff that they've dealt with. I'm surprised it's taken this long for post traumatic stress to become a thing, if you will, and become okay to talk about it. We can spend another hour talking about why departments
Oh,
don't make a big enough deal about it. and perhaps there's a lack of training, lack of trust, all those things. But I can tell you this: something I learned from Kevin Gilmorton was focus on the things you can control, right? And be very good at those things that you can control. So
That's right.
listen, I want to
He did
thank.
my first
Go
he
ahead.
did my interview. He
He
did my
did. I
psychological
figured it
for my
was him.
first
When
yeah,
you
when I got
described
hired, when I got on SWAT, and when I got on my first shooting.
when you described the office, I knew it was Kevin's office. I've been in that office. I've talked to him.
Okay.
Yeah,
Alright.
yeah. And so, listen, as we wrap up, man, I want to thank you for your time, Eric. I want to wish you much
Yeah, brother.
success to you, your wife Jen, incredible lady, incredible family.
Thank you.
And
God
and
bless.
so now people will know who the real Erick Maldonado is, you know?
That's right, man.
And so it wasn't that he were a jerk. It wasn't none of that. It's just you were so focused. And guys like you, guys like me, sometimes get misunderstood. But sometimes guys like us need to do a better job of understanding others because
Yeah,
we're in it, a team. And I want to thank you for being here today, man. Again, much success to you. If you haven't picked up the
yeah,
book, make sure you guys pick it up. Necessary Evil Echoes of the Badge, because you and I and guys like us, we are sometimes the necessary evil that needs to go out there and handle business. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, pass it on, post a comment, and get with Eric if you have any issues on it. I know he does some speaking as well. So thank you so much, Eric. May God continue to bless you and your family. And last recommendation: get close to God and get close to your faith, because the kingdom of heaven needs protectors both here and above. Thank you all so much. Thank you all for watching. Stand by.
see you, brother. Be safe.